Hi folks, it is Brad Mullen with Engadget, and the phone we are checking out today is the Motorola Atrix HD. This is an AT&T phone that's going to be available for $99. It's an LTE device, in fact the first Motorola device on AT&T's LTE network. First device we've seen from Motorola since the Atrix 2, and it's also the first one with ice cream sandwich and an HD display. So there's certainly a lot to look forward to here, especially in Motorola's court. Now it's going for $99 with a 2-year commitment, and that's actually a really good price point when you consider that the competition, especially with the kind of specs that are on this device, are really the One X from HTC and the Galaxy S3 from Samsung, and those are both at the $200 price range. Now, at the $100 price range, like the Atrix HD, you've got the Xperia Ion, which is a gingerbread device, and you also have the Galaxy S2, a few other devices sprinkled here and there, but as far as Android competition goes, you really can't beat this deal. Going for $100, it's a great price point to start off with, and of course over time it's going to get a little bit lower. Now, show off a few things here. From the front, it actually looks much like an Atrix device, but you take a look at the back, and it actually turns into more of a Razr kind of look. In fact, we've seen this Razr before. It's a Chinese variant that came out late last year and has ended up making it over to AT&T. Now, it's not the same exact specs as the Chinese variant, but certainly the same exact body. Let's take a look. We actually have both of the available colors, black and white. So it gives you an idea. We actually prefer the white color than the black, but obviously that's going to be a matter of personal preference. So it's a 4.5-inch display. It's non-pentile, TFT, and of course the 720p, which means you're looking at 326 ppi. That's actually a very, very nice screen. Now when you first turn it on, the screen definitely pops out at you and you have this wow factor. What we've seen, and it's hard to tell on this screen, but when you start looking at pictures, and especially when you compare them to the same picture on other phone screens, we even tried it on our computer. When you take a look at it, the whites are brighter on this screen. The darks are a little bit lighter than what you would see on a Super AMOLED. But all the other colors in between end up being more saturated. So when we were taking a look at the pictures where there would be a blue background, on here it would turn out a lot more blue than we would see on pretty much any other device. So that's one of the first things that pop out at us. Now, a few other things about the Motorola here. First, let's give you a tour. Of course, you have just the simple AT&T logo down here at the bottom, and as you saw, with this being an ice cream sandwich device, this actually goes more of the stock route by having the virtual keys down at the bottom as part of the screen, as well as the Google search box. Our only complaint here is the fact that instead of having extra screen space down here at the bottom, it's just more bezel that has no point to it except for showing off the AT&T logo. So having the carrier branding on there, okay, we get that, but taking up that much space for absolutely no reason is a bit of a frustration. With the Google box already there and the virtual keys, you really have much more limited screen space than the advertised 4.5 inches. So that's a very crucial point to make when it comes to this particular device. Same goes with the top, actually. There's a whole lot of wasted space up here. Now you've got the, of course, the speaker grill, LED notification light, and the 1.3 megapixel frontward facing camera. Looking at the side, there's a power button and the volume rocker. Now the thing about these, I actually found these to be a little bit more annoying. It's much like the Razr in this sense, where the keys are rather recessed, and so we found them a bit difficult to hold down and to use on a regular basis. So you do get used to it after a little while, but it was a bit of a frustration at first for us. Now at top, you've got the standard web top build here, where you've got the micro USB and the HDMI, of course, 3.5mm headphone jack. And then over here you have the slot that contains the micro SD and the micro SIM. There is no micro SD card included, so you'll have to add that in, and certainly you're going to want to because there's only 8 gigabytes of internal storage here. So really you're only getting 5 gigabytes of user accessible memory, and really that's not a whole lot when you start taking a bunch of pictures with the 8 megapixel camera. You've got 1080p video recording capability, for example, back here. So you're going to want to have extra space, especially given these specs. So it's rather unfortunate. Now you can, of course, put in up to 32 gigs on a micro SD, but certainly one of the items that's going to draw people to, say, the Galaxy S3 is the fact that it can hold up to 64 gigs with the SD8XC, and it already has 16 gigs built in. So you have more storage options. You even have the extra Dropbox space, which you don't have on here. So again, other little details, but if you're going to be taking a lot of pictures, you put a lot of music on here, you're definitely going to want to know the difference here. Now it's pretty thin, as you can tell. It's 8.4 millimeters. Now let's bring over the Razr, the standard Razr, just to give you an idea. When you're taking a look at the two, let's see if we can get a good comparison here. The regular Razr is 7.1 millimeters, so this is just a little over a millimeter thicker. But another difference is going to be at the hump, at the top, where the camera is. Now the hump on the Razr is already pretty thick, but it's even thicker on the Atrix HD. It's actually 14.7 millimeters. So it's a bit thicker than we would like to see. Okay, continuing the tour, on the back, of course, you get the 8 megapixel camera, capable of doing the 1080p video capture. It has an f2.4 lens, and of course a LED flash, and your standard speaker grills. Nothing else on the body with the exception of the noise cancelling mic down here at the bottom. And by the way, the noise cancelling on this performed very well. We were quite impressed. Like we were talking about earlier, this is Ice Cream Sandwich, and it's very reminiscent of stock ICS, but of course Motorola has still put its own little twist to it. It's definitely not as bad as Blur used to be. In fact, we've done a review of the Ice Cream Sandwich user interface, so you definitely want to check that out on Engadget.com. Now, one of the big differences, though, like most of this is pretty much the same as what we saw on the Razr's upgrade. Of course, you have the virtual keys, which is different. Also, another thing that's a bit different is the fact that you go to get a new page by continuing to swipe until there's no more pages left. So when you get to this page, oh, you can add another one. Well, you can start off with a blank one or go with a template. And if you do the template, you have a few different options here. So if you remember scenes from earlier Motorola devices, and even HTC had something very similar, where you could have preset groups of apps and widgets. It's very similar, except instead of it being a whole set of home panels, it's just one page. And so you can go in and you can just pick this one, add that to. And it's up to you if you want to keep that. Certainly you can go in and change it around if you want. Now inside, it's a Snapdragon S4 processor, 1.5 gigahertz dual core. Motorola didn't specify exactly which chipset it was going to be, but we ran some apps that were able to go into the internals and tell us exactly what it is. It's an MSN 8960, and that's the same chip that you see on the Galaxy S3 and the One X for AT&T. So as a result, you're going to have very similar performance, and of course it is a lower price point, which is certainly helpful. The only difference that we saw is that we saw the occasional hiccup when going into apps. And that wasn't such a huge deal because it didn't happen all the time. The other issue was the battery life. The battery life is much worse on the Atrix HD than it is on the Galaxy S3 or the One X. So if you're not near a charger on a regular basis, that may be a bit of a concern. And we'll go into more specifics on our in-depth review on Engadget.com. So that's a good overview of the Motorola Atrix HD. just to give you an idea of what it's all about. Now, if you want more details, we've got a review up. Just go to Engadget.com and check out a review. And once again, we appreciate you coming by and watching this video. I am Brad with Engadget.